imagine it's a Sunday night, you're with your family, relaxing, you check your voicemail, and you find out you've lost your job. That was basically the reality for thousands of people working for Aveos, a company that maintains Air Canada planes that's filed for bankruptcy protection. 2,400 workers have been laid off here in Montreal. I should say across the board. 2,400 in total in Montreal, Winnipeg, and Vancouver, but 1,800, fully three-quarters of those employees have been laid off right here in Montreal. So you can just imagine what an awful, awful time it is right now for literally thousands of people, their families, and so on. And on the line with me right now is Connie, whose husband Dave is a mechanic, and he worked at Aveos, and he's lost his job. Connie, first of all, I thank you very much for basically really having the courage to come out and speak about this on this program. Thank you for that. And from what I understood, I mean, there's no good time, of course, to find out that somebody's lost their job. But how exactly, Connie, did you and your husband Dave find out about this?
Well, we had my daughter's birthday supper with her friends and some family, and they were getting ready to leave, and I noticed we had a voice message, and I checked it, and my face just dropped, like something happened. I don't know. My daughter looked at me, and I yelled for my husband. We took the phone, and he listened to it, and then what are you supposed to do? You have no one to call. It's 11:15 at night. His lunch was ready for work. He was ready to go to work. Needless to say, we did not sleep all night. It's just awful. It's an awful feeling, and I just not find it right that to leave a voice message, why couldn't you call back and speak to someone in person with a thing like that?
And you said, what time was it, Connie, when you got the phone call?
We got the message at 10:30. They called at 9:30, I believe it was.
I see. You're right, that is a pretty impersonal way to find out something like this. And it was actually, like you said, you who heard the message first. How did you, when you're telling your husband Dave, get the phone? Did you warn him first of all, or how did that play out, Connie?
I don't. I remember my daughter looking at me, and her friends were all standing at the door, and I just said, "Daddy lost his job," and he grabbed the phone, and I went outside, of course, and I really thought I was having a heart attack. My chest was so heavy, and it was, trying to be strong for him, but it's not fun. It's not fun. You're celebrating a nice day, a birthday, and you get this call, and you don't even know what's happening. You don't know where do we go from here.
Dave is a mechanic, and how long was he with the company, Connie?
16 years.
16 years.
He's a heavy maintenance. Yeah, and then to find out there's other people that are in heavy maintenance and AMC, and they're not laid off. They're getting paid to stay at home, who have less seniority, but you can't bump. There's nothing you can do.
Have they talked to your husband, Connie, about severance, anything like that?
Nothing. No phone calls, nothing.
I mean, 16 years with the company, I would think that he has earned some kind of a package. 16
years, and we went through this with Air Canada when it was Air Canada, and, with the bankruptcy, I worked there at that time too, and I decided to leave, and I figured he had a job, I'm fine, he can stay. And he lost weeks of vacation, never had a pay increase, in 9 years, trying to help them, and this is what they do to you.
It's been less than 24 hours since you got this devastating phone call, Connie. Have you and Dave, it's a combination of shock, I am sure, and wondering now what's going to happen next. Have you been able to even focus on the future at this point?
No, nothing. It's awful. It's, honestly, I cry a lot because, I have a house and kids, and, we have, got to work to live, and it's like I'm trying to be strong for him.
And I just want to make sure we're clear again here, Connie. There's been no suggestion of any kind of a severance package for your husband, despite the fact that he worked there for almost 20 years.
No, nothing.
Connie, I wish you...
I haven't heard anything yet. I mean, we're still waiting to hear, like everybody else.
Connie, we wish you, of course, nothing but the best, and hopefully this works out sometime really soon for you and your family. Good luck to you, Connie.
Well, we heard that it will take 2 weeks before we know anything. 2 weeks, so what do you live on edge for 2 weeks?
It's really unbelievable. Connie, I really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much for this time.
Thank you.
It's really something else, and that's just one of hundreds or quite literally thousands of stories, similar stories to this. A voicemail, and that's how they found out that, in Connie's case at least, in Dave's case at least, how this mechanic, specialized mechanic, 16 years with the company, found out that he's no longer employed. Welcome back. It's exactly 5:20, and we're continuing to talk about Aveos and just an awful situation for 2,400 workers overall in Montreal, Winnipeg, and Vancouver. But again, 1,800 of those workers, three-quarters, right here in Montreal. We spoke just a few minutes ago with Connie, whose husband as a mechanic, 16 years with Aveos, but he found out through a voicemail last night at around 10:30 in the evening that he lost his job. And John Afentakis is on the executive committee with Local Lodge 1751, the Machinists Union. An inspector with Aveos also told today not to report to work, but until further notice. John, it's good to have you on the line.
Hi, how are you?
I appreciate your time this afternoon, and you were listening, from what I understand, John, to our conversation with Connie just a few minutes ago. I mean, when you hear a story like that, it has to just rip your heart out, doesn't it?
Oh, well, listen, you got to understand that all this frustration and anger dates back to 2003, right? When you look at Connie or her husband Dave and myself and every other Aveos, if you will, transitioned employee, we were Air Canada employees. And in order to keep this airline afloat at that time in 2003, we all gave in excess of $12,000 per year in concessions via salary, pension, vacation, benefits, etc. Just during the first initial CCAA of Air Canada. And you look at us today, or a few years later, they turn around and they say, well, we don't no longer need your services, and we're selling you off to Aveos. I mean, it starts back to that point. You read in the Winnipeg Free Press an article last week, and you read where it discusses that approximately $4.5 billion has been returned. That's right, billion, has been returned to shareholders from Ace Aviation Holdings, which was the parent company created during the restructuring back in 2004. And it just makes your stomach turn. And you look at all these things, you look at all these numbers, you read and you see that there's another $300 million scheduled to be given to shareholders in April. Like, does this make sense?
John, you were, from what I understand, you did not lose your job, although you were told not to report until further notice. Can you explain how your situation is unique, or perhaps not unique in the sense that you're the only one, but I suspect there are others as well like you who've been told not to report immediately, but that you still will keep your job. Do you know why that is? Well,
it's not. We were told that our job has not been terminated. Basically, I got a call yesterday at around 2, 3 in the afternoon, something like that. I was at a barbecue at my in-laws, and I received a call. I'm sitting outside. It was a beautiful day, and he tells me you're not to report to work, and he reads a transcript of what exactly, basically a fixed document, and he just read it word for word. In that, it said that I am not to report to work on Monday, that I have not been terminated, and my salary and benefits will continue. Now, there was no date mentioned. There was no nothing else other than that.
So no other explanation as to why you were still retained, although it remains to be seen when you're actually going to be back at work, but no real further explanation, right? And you weren't able to find anything out today?
Well, today, the only thing I found via the Union Avenue is basically that Aveos has filed for CCAA. And in that now, I guess we could say that the document is at our union's lawyers right now, and they're filing through it to see what can and can't be done. What the actual legitimacy to the document is, and what the provisions are in there. That's where it stands right now.
Air Canada, at least the president of your union was saying today, John, that, if Air Canada was still sending its plane to Aveos, maybe the company wouldn't be in the position that it is right now.
Oh, for sure. There's no doubt about it. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that if the aircraft were to continue, or the flow of work was to continue as it should have, there's no reason why any of these employees would have lost their jobs. There's absolutely no reason.
John, I thank you for your time this afternoon. Appreciate it. And it's good to know that at least you have been able to retain your position. When you'll be back at work, of course, that remains to be seen. But again, John, thank you.
Thank you very much.
John Afentakis, he's an inspector with Aveos, who was not at work today, but as we just pointed out, he will be back at a certain point. They just told him not to report today and until further notice. And by the way, Air Canada was saying today that it could be forced to cancel flights. And what that means, of course, is strand thousands of people if the maintenance company, Aveos, that obtained creditor protection today is unable to complete the repairs to a number of planes. So this is a developing story. We'll keep on top of it for you, of course, here at News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.